Good afternoon. Look at this, we're all close together, not 6 feet apart, don't have masks. What's happened in this world? Now, I didn't see all of you at the groundbreaking on Tuesday. Okay, I'm not calling out anybody, but just saying it was a great event and it was fun to see that happen, see that first pipe go in. And the pipe is taller than John Shockley, so we could have stuffed them in there and who would have known? But
I did get a little defensive. Didn't I?
He's the lawyer, he knows how to defend himself. Any introductions today, Mary?
I don't think there's anybody new.
Okay. Yeah, can I have a motion to approve the agenda? Are we adding something, Mary? Or new business, I get to bring up something? Is that correct?
New business, I think you have a little bit.
We'll have something new under there. Do I have a motion? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Good, moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Uh-oh. Tom, was that in favor of or against?
That was in favor of. Aye.
It came on when I said, oh, where are the nays? So we'll remember there's a little delay because you're far out there in Carrington. So is there consideration of the minutes? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of May 21st, 2021? Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Good, I waited for you this time. Very good. Kent Bean, you're out getting some library books or something? What the heck? How come you're not here today?
Must be on mute.
Ken, you're on mute, so we can read your lips, but we can't quite make it out. Press the button. Well, we found a new way to keep Ken quiet. I don't know.
Is it his first virtual meeting?
Yeah. You want to try again, Ken? Okay, we'll come back to you later when the technical things are cleared up. Bruce Grubb, is he here today? Oh, there he is.
Came in the back door, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Thank you. Bruce Grubb filling in for our TAC chair, Al Grosser. He couldn't be here today. And I'm also filling in for Jerry Blomeke, our vice chair, who also couldn't be here today. So I'll be giving the TAC committee update. We last met on June 24th by video conference. Unfortunately, I was unavailable to attend that meeting. So fortunately, a nice person provided me with the minutes so I could put together this committee update. So anyway, at the meeting, Kip gave a presentation regarding contractual relationships between the contractors, agents, and the owner during construction. Corey Chorney with AE2S gave construction updates on the Missouri River intake and pipeline construction south of Carrington. And a number of us here attended a groundbreaking ceremony on Tuesday, celebrating the startup of the pipeline work, and really a great event, extremely well attended. The mayor and I went out there and really enjoyed that. And then Kip also reported on a production plant visit that some members made to Northwest Pipe in Saginaw, Texas. And they went there to observe their quality control measures used in the production of the pipeline that we're using. Kip also reported on the start of the pipeline tunneling work under key highways and railroad crossings. That's being done by, see if I have the pronunciation right, Minger Construction, a subcontractor. I got that right. And then finally, Corey gave an update on the Cheyenne River discharge work. So Kip, I think you'll probably go through this a little bit later, but you gave an update to TAC on the 2021 to 2023 biennium budget and the project work plan. The total project dollar amount, $89.7 million, with the local share, user share, $22.4 million. And I think you're going to cover that in a little bit too, Kip. There were 3 task orders that were reviewed by TAC, 2 related to construction phase services and one related to operational planning and asset management. Kip's going to talk about those in a little more detail in just a bit, but to let you know that TAC approved all three and forwarded them on to you with a recommendation for approval. And so with that, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report from June 24th. Thank you.
Kip, are we still limited on the pipe, how much pipe they can make? If we accelerate the project, would they be able to make more pipe?
While we were at the Northwest plant, we asked that question, that if we wanted to speed the project up, would they be the problem? And Northwest said no, they feel like they could handle this project less than 6 years.
Very good.
Yep.
Good to know. I think Dwayne's got some groundbreaking pictures. Is that right, Dwayne?
That's right, Mr. Mayor. We thought we'd give you some quick visuals of what some of us saw that were at the ceremony the other day. Had a great ceremony, well attended. People were happy. Weather was absolutely perfect. I guess.
Can you guess who the master of ceremonies was?
I guess this year the only thing we could have hoped for better was it would rained out. Here's some guy they found to introduce everybody, and that's a picture of our tent. You can see the big pipe in the background. Here's the Lieutenant Governor telling us about the communities that are going to enjoy the rural water systems in the eastern side of the state, municipalities, and how happy the state is finally to get this going too. Here's Andrea Travnicek, second day on the job as the North Dakota Department of Water Resources chairman. And she talked about her experience in the federal government and in the state government and how she's looking forward to getting these big projects like the diversion and the Red River project moving in the state of North Dakota. Of course, the Mayor of Fargo, chairman of LAWA, half of the project was there, gave us some good talking points. Senator Rich Wardner, the Senate Majority Leader from Dickinson, came out and talked about how glad he was that Garrison and LAWA had stayed on course, and even though it looked pretty dim sometimes for getting this project accomplished, that we were finally at the starting line. And he was there when Southwest got started, and so he kind of gave us a pep talk to hang in there and we'll get our project too. Representative Jim Schmidt, representing Chet Pollard, the other majority leader, who's on a motorcycle trip down south somewhere. And they just there to let us know that they support the project, and they talked about the perseverance of Garrison through the federal and the state project and all the other reiterations to get it going. Here's a picture of Chairman Alan Walter speaking to the crowd, and basically what we wanted you to see there was the crowd. We had a sack lunch on the table afterwards that you could grab, and we had 100 of those, and we didn't have any of them left over. So we did have over 100 people in attendance because some people went in and ate at the Chieftain. So it was well attended, and there was a lot of interest in it.
And then for you guys that weren't there, this is Al's best side, because if you see his other side, he's got grease on his sleeve and grease on his pants. So we made the courtesy of getting his best side.
When Alan comes to it, he works, and so he got a little dirty. And I guess here are some dignitaries signing the pipe. We got the Lieutenant Governor, Mayor Mahoney, Alan Walter, Andrea Travnicek, myself, Jim Schmidt, and Senator Wardner. And anybody in the crowd that was there got to sign the pipe. And then contractors started up the backhoe that is so large that they brought it in on 3 semis and picked up the pipe and put it in the ground. Here's the Garrison and LAWA picture, our staff and board members, and the 4 principal people at Garrison, the management team for the project. Kim Cook on the right, Mary Meridian, myself, and Kip Covert. And here's the officers on the far left there at Garrison right now, chairman, first vice president, second vice president. That's Kip signing the pipe. We got Grand Forks representation was there, Todd Phelan and Al Grasser. And then we got the mayor and Mary Meridian over on the right. Here's legislators that showed up. We had a pretty good showing of legislators, and more than I expected, I'll say that. And there's the pipe after everybody wrote on this side. Some wrote messages, some just signed it, some put their position. It was kind of interesting to look at it. We didn't have a long time to look at it because the contractor was itching to get it going because he couldn't wait for us to get out of there because he wanted to start putting pipe in the ground. And there they are, putting it in the ground. You'll notice on the right there that funny shaped piece on the end was welded on the end because that is the first pipe in the ground. We'll build east from there, but that had to be put on there because the pipe was going the other direction at this time. So, pretty good sized backhoe, putting that in the ground. Garney employees on the right. Any questions? That was kind of our ceremony.
Any questions by the board? Very good. Kip, you're up again. Work plan. Nicely done, Dwayne, thank you.
Please turn to tab N. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. We pulled together a draft budget for you for 2021 to 2023. There's 10 items here. We listed them in priority order. So from top to bottom, we feel like they're in a good list. Let us know if you disagree or want to mix and match something. So I'll just walk through this. We have a few maps behind it to try to illustrate what we're thinking. Item number 1, first priority, taking care of the financial administration and legal items. I'm not going to go through that item. Priority number 2 was the Missouri River Intake Screen Structure Tunnel Contract 2. If you turn to the next page, that's the illustration of what we think is the highest priority. The red line there represents the tunnel underneath the Missouri River. And that goes out to the screen structure. So we think as far as priority goes, we've got the wet well almost done. And so this item would be next in the priority. If you go back to your budget, the construction is 18.9 million. That's what we opened bids on. We issued the notice of award. And then in the columns in your budget, it's 2.26 for the construction phase services, environmental services. So that's what we think the highest priority is. Item number 3, easement acquisition. If you would turn to your page, 2 more pages behind that, it looks like this. We feel like the highest priority as far as easement acquisition should be the green line. It represents, the left side of the green line represents where the break tank is going to be, roughly. And then all the way to the right side is the discharge structure. So we would really like to target over the next 2 years this section of right-of-way. We've come here before and we've talked about Foster County. So we do have Foster County tied up for right-of-way, but we would like to finish this entire stretch. So that is item number 4 in your budget for priority. Or sorry, that was item number 3. Item number 4 in your budget, transmission pipeline east, contract 5B. I did not make these names up, by the way. They're horrible names for these contracts. 5B, so currently we're doing 5A, which is 1.2 miles of pipeline. We would like to go east of where we're constructing right now, 9 miles. So we feel like it's high priority to finish the designs of the next 9 miles. And if you want to see a map of that, it looks like this in your book. It's a red line. Currently that alignment, that pipeline segment, that 9 miles is sitting at 90% complete. And so this task order that we're talking about, priority number 4, is taking that design from 90% to 100%, ready to bid. Okay, next priority, Item number 5 in your budget, Transmission Pipeline East, Contract 5C and D. So what we're saying is design more pipe, be shovel ready. I believe it's the last map in that section. It looks like the one I'm holding up. There you go, yep. So you can see on there, in the middle, 5A, that's what we're doing right now. We're constructing that one. 5B is what we think is highest priority. It's the yellow line, design that, and get it bid ready. We're also saying the next priority of items that we would like to do is 5C and 5D. So the orange and the blue, let's take that from 90% to 100% so that we're shovel ready. If you were to add all these segments up, if you're just wondering, if you were to add all these segments up, it's 28 miles long.
And a cost of what?
28 miles times roughly 5 million a mile, you know, you're looking at somewhere around 150 million. Okay. Got a couple more items here. Item 6 in the priority list on the budget is the Red River Valley operational plan. We're starting construction. We're starting to draft the project participation agreements. Who's going to be in? How is the project going to operate? What are the triggers for when we turn the pumps on? There's all sorts of things that we need to organize. We have to work with the U.S. Corps of Engineers on Lake Ashtabula. We have to work with the State Water Commission. So item number 6 is a task order to start that process. Item number 7 in the priority list, Program Management Information System. This is to just do the final step. We've had it on our list for quite a while. We're in construction. We have a lot of paperwork coming into our office, so it's time to purchase the program management software to help us with daily activities. Item number 8, this is, people have asked us, if you have $200 million, are you shovel ready? To be shovel ready for $200 million, we would need to go further east towards Cooperstown. On this map I have holding up here, it's to the east of Contract 5. So what we're saying is, if we've got all this stuff going, if we've already done 5A, 5B, 5C, 5D, we've got the operational plan going, we're suggesting to you guys that the next piece we should be ready with is Contract 6. And that would take us to Cooperstown, and that is only at 30% design. So if we would bring that item forward, that would be a task order to finish designs and get it bid ready.
And just keep on that issue, the law members need to know we've circulated that discussion with the governor and with some of the legislative team as well. In Grand Forks, it was circulated as well before them. So we're trying to get, the state's going to get $1 to $2 billion to spend on federal issues. There's another infrastructure bill coming through, $3 trillion, something like that. What we're trying to say is, hey, wouldn't it be nice? You're looking for projects that are ready to go. We'd be willing to take $200 million. And what we'd like to do is buy down the local share. So the 75-25, what we'd like to do is take that $200 million and put it in our local share bucket. So that would almost bring us to a 85-90-10 split. But we're not going to talk about that. We're just going to talk about how the federal money just helped out local entities. And for the state, it's no more cost to them. It's the same cost that they've already said they were in for. So Mary's been circulating that in Bismarck, and we're starting to seriously discussing it as a possible option for us. So we wouldn't mind if you run into any of your legislative people in your areas to just mention it. We're trying to be polite now, but I got a couple mayors I may send in there if I have to get tough. You and Tom, Dave and Tom will kind of go up there and straighten them out, but just think about that, because it would be a nice, I mean, there's so much federal money coming out, Isn't there a way of utilizing it? So just as Kip goes, is first we thought we'd be limited by pipe supply. Now that's not true. We thought we'd be limited by different things. And it's almost the same thing John's finding out with the P3 people is sometimes once you get your people mobilized, you can keep going and decrease time and cost. So just if you all put that in the back of your heads, an opportunity to push that a little bit would be helpful. So go ahead, Kip.
The last two items on this budget is program management and a reserve part. Reiterate, the entire budget here is 89.7 million. The state share is 67.3 million. The local share is 22.4 million. I think our general strategy here was to put as much pipe in the ground as we can afford and then make sure that we are ready for whatever comes at us next as far as funding goes, that we have enough shovel-ready designs on the shelf ready to go. That was kind of our philosophy. And just interested if we have the right strategy here and you guys agree.
Any questions of Kip? So is there action items we have to pass on here?
We would be asking you to approve the draft work plan.
So construction phase, IBC, or which one? A1? Oh, the work plan, okay, A1. Do we have a motion for the draft of the $89.7 million work plan?
I'll move.
Is there a second? Seconded. Any comments or discussion? I believe this is roll call, right?
Altough? Bigwood?
Yes.
Thank you. Bonsack? Yes. Karlsruhe?
Yes.
Erdman? Tom?
Yes.
Johnson? Yes. Mahoney?
Yes.
Riley? Yes. Schmaltz?
Yes.
Pritchard? And Fian?
Yes.
He's there.
Motion's carried.
Got it to work now.
I
Any
did. I'm surprised.
Any other action item, Kip?
Not for the work plan.
Okay.
I have some other items here next, though.
Gonna do construction update?
We've brought some task orders for you. Would you like me to go through those?
Sure.
So even though you guys approved the draft work plan, we still bring each individual task order to you for approval. So not only you have control of the budget, but you also have control of each item in the budget, whether you want to move those forward. So we're bringing the first three items to you today that we feel like are important. Tab P is the first task order we're bringing forward to you. We've approved the contract for tunneling underneath the Missouri River. We call that contract 2. So tab P, task order 2630, is the Missouri River intake screen structure and tunnel contract 2 construction phase services. So this allows our consultants to go out there, be on site, and watch the tunneling take place. That contract with Michaels for the tunneling is about $18.9 million. These engineering services, the basic services are 1.8 million. I'm just gonna give you the highlights, and then if you wanna dig down deeper, you can. The special environmental services, remember we have to monitor for endangered species like the piping plover, the whooping crane. So we broke those out separate, that's 420,000. And so the total of this task order is about 2.2 million for construction phase services to go with the contract 2 at the intake. And we'd be asking for your approval on this or discussion.
Should I have a motion to approve, please? Is there a second? Dave? Who did second? Any questions of him? Roll call vote, please.
Altough? Bigwood?
Yes.
Bonsack? Karlsruhe?
Yes.
Erdman,
Yes.
Johnson. Mahoney,
Yes.
Riley. Schmaltz. Pritchard. And Vien.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Tab Q. This fits in with your priority, or it fits in with your draft work plan. This is Transmission Pipeline East, Contract 5B. We looked at that in the map. This is the design wrap-up. So this takes that plan, that 9 miles, from 90% to 100% bid ready. The cost of this task order is $545,000. We've provided a summary there for the, on the very first page. Any specific questions? This one's, it's 9 miles. We think we can wrap this up in about 3 to 4 months. And so if we can wrap up the design, we'd be ready to bid this late fall.
Do you have a motion?
I'll move.
Is there a second? Second. Brian? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Eltoff. Yes. Bigwood.
Yes.
Bonsack. Yes. Karlsrud.
Yes.
Erdman.
Yes.
Johnson. Yes. Mahoney.
Yes.
Riley. Schmaltz. Yes. Pritchard. Yes. And Vien.
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Item C.
The last task order that we're bringing to you today is on tab R. It is what we talked about already. It is operational and asset management planning. So this is start digging into the operational plan. This will help us draft the project participation agreement. Who's going to turn it on, how we're going to turn it on, how we're going to charge. This just gets us dusting off the old operational plan. Who are the new players? It just gets us started. This task order is for $106,000. It also gets us a little bit of a sneak peek at asset management. So we're starting to put things in the ground. Let's start taking a look at asset management, how and what we're going to track and how we're going to do that. So we'd be asking for your approval on task order 1410.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Eltoff. Yes. Bigwood.
Aye.
Bonsack. Yes. Karlsrud.
Yes.
Erdman.
Yes.
Johnson. Yes. Mahoney.
Yes.
Riley. Schmaltz.
Yes.
Pritchard. Yes. And Vien.
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Now we do construction update.
Yes. Brought some good photos for you today. I hope you'll enjoy them.
They will.
Here's the Missouri River intake site. On the right side of your screen would be upstream or be towards the dam. So the water flows from right to left. This was during one of the concrete pours that will basically hold this into the ground. That day that we were there, they were pouring about 6 feet of it. Overall, the plug is going to be 10 feet at the bottom. That day that Dwayne and I were there was a 6-foot pour. Another good view, a drone took this. You can start seeing kind of the different secants that make up the wall structure. Concrete trucks were in there 2x2. I think we had 400 cubic yards of concrete poured by about lunchtime. They started at, I think that day they started at about 5 o'clock in the morning because it was pretty hot. And they're using a pump truck to get it down to the bottom. I had to take a selfie when I walked down the spiral staircase. I think there was like 93 steps to the bottom. And I didn't even get me to the bottom, but I got close to the bottom. So I had to take a selfie looking back up. Sorry about that. Had to include that. On the left-hand side is a much better picture with the wet well there. And you can see the operation that day. The left-hand side, you can It's hard to make out, but it basically is cured concrete on the bottom. There is about another, I believe there's another foot that needs to go on top of that for the finished grade. And you can see the spiral staircase there. And the secant structures, there are a few leaks, nothing structural, but there are a few leaks in the wall. Right-hand side, it's just a road, basically letting you know that all the road updates are done. With all that concrete traffic out there, really happy with the road work. It held up really well. Any questions? Just yell them out. Kim or Dwayne already showed these. I brought a couple, so we'll just skip on by. I thought this was a great view from a drone of showing kind of the crowd. A lot of the people were underneath the tent, but still I thought it was a pretty good shot. This came from, I think this came from A2S. Does everybody, can you see yourself where you were standing? We have 45 pieces of pipe on the ground out of, I think, 125 loads. So we have 45 on the ground. Just wanted to give you a view of what that looks like on the ground. This is the picture after the groundbreaking ceremony. There were, at this point in time, we had 2 pieces of pipe in the ground. As of today, we have 4 on the ground. Moving over to the tunnel, so this is part of the pipeline project. The subcontractor, Minger Construction, is doing the tunneling. Left-hand side's an old picture, but on the right-hand side's the updated picture from just 2 days ago. That is the shaft pit that the tunnel boring machine is lowered down into. The tunnel boring machine is lowered down into where that gray collar sits, and it actually, the way it's oriented, the tunnel boring machine would be coming at us. The push rams would push away on the picture, and that structure is over 20 feet deep. Middle picture there, I had to get a picture before Lisa took off and started using the machine. She's sitting in the operator seat in there. If you can tell, that's Lisa. On the left-hand side, Dwayne stood by the tunnel boring machine. That's a 96-inch machine. Those are the teeth that he's standing by. The soil goes inside those triangle pieces. Switching over to the middle picture where Lisa's at, that's where the operator sits. There's some hydraulic levers that they reach up and grab to go forward and back, or to tunnel forward and backwards. The soil comes through the middle, and there's actually a conveyor belt that would take the material kind of in our direction, back this way. And then on the right-hand side is called the casing pipe. So that's the 96-inch steel casing pipe. The 72-inch pipe fits inside that. So that's basically a protective pipe. They are starting the tunnel, actually turning that tunneling machine on Monday, is what I was told. And they're thinking they can do about 20 feet a day. Moving over to the discharge structure, the concrete structure is kind of hiding behind some of these trees there. The Cheyenne River is on the left-hand side over there. This discharge structure, the water flows through the structure, goes through a small tributary, and then spills into the Cheyenne River. Okay, so as the water would be flowing, from where the person taking the picture is, and it would be going towards the structure. It'll become a little bit more clear here. This was some of the wall, the reinforcement for the wall construction. Another good view. So the water would actually come through the concrete structure and spill over onto the rocks. And there's a good view. So what the contractor has remaining, all the concrete work is done. What the contractor has remaining is that pipe there that is coming out of the wall. We're waiting for the pipe to arrive, and that won't be here till October. So they've gone, I believe they've left site and they're doing other work. So when that pipe comes back, they'll be able to finish their contract. They are well ahead of their schedule. That's all my pictures for today. Any questions on construction?
Any questions? Very good. Mary, I think you're up for program schedule.
Yeah, and tab S is the program schedule. On here, we have talked about, show all of the construction projects that we have going on. I don't know that I need to go into it in great detail because you can see the progress that's already happening on all of the contracts. I'll just state at the bottom, we have added the Missouri River intake, the screen structure and tunnel for contract 2. And I think that Kip already said that we're going to be sending out the notice to proceed tomorrow, I think. So they should be able to get started on that really soon. So that is just in there for your information, showing our estimated completion dates and our substantial completion dates. I think that the pictures say 1,000 words.
So we'll go to the planning level budget then next.
Sure, and that is tab T, please. This is the planning level budget. We have it broke down into a few different color-coded ones. On top, and this is as of July 31st, on the top is what we have basically completed of our work efforts that we've completed and wrapped up, $23.4 million worth. And blue is some of the final design and engineering that we are working on wrapping up. That effort, we're at 87% complete. 7.8 million is our estimate. We have expended 6.7 million. And in the green is our most current efforts that we're working on. And that is a $3.7 million work effort, and we've expended 1.3 million. Down in the orange is all of our construction, and we are at 25% complete on construction. That's as in progress payments, because as you can see, they have a lot of construction done. Our total effort right now is 18.7 million. We've expended 4.6 million, and this does not include the $18.9 million yet for the contract 2 of the Missouri River intake tunnel. So total, we have 68% completed on our current work efforts, $53.7 million budget. We've expended 36.2 million. And the next time that we do come here, we'll add in the $89.7 million budget that you just approved. I didn't want to put that until it was approved. And Mr. Chairman, we always like to have I don't know that this one this one doesn't need a approval. Sorry about that. And
Finally spending some money, huh?
We're spending money. We have a lot of pay requests coming in.
Kind of like the Valley City budget right there, Dave?
Not quite.
Maybe Carrington. Okay, so State Water Commission funding request, tab U.
Yeah, tab U is a request that we submitted, our most current request to the State Water Commission. They will be looking at this at their August 12th meeting. This is actually line 4 in 6 of the $89.7 million budget that you just approved. It is for the final design of the contract 5B and the operations task order phase 1. So we're asking the State Water Commission for $510,000 in state funding, and it is $170,000 in local cost share. So that is really in there for your information.
Very good. Interim finance agreement, Tammy Norgard.
Okay, we have your Series C interim finance agreement before you in the packets at tab W. We talked about this at the last meeting, and I will tell you it's been negotiated between Garrison and Lake Agassiz along with the attorneys for Fargo and Grand Forks. Fargo and Grand Forks have both passed it and signed it. Garrison has passed it and signed it, so the last signature is Lake Agassiz. You've got it in your packets, so I'll kind of hit the highlights. This is for the intake screens and tunnels, the segment 1 pipeline design and construction and additional land acquisition. The structure of this agreement is exactly like the interim agreement Schedule B in that it's contemplating the 75-25% split with state cost share. The difference in this one, if you recall the last agreements, Fargo and Grand Forks stepped up and said, we'll just pay for everybody's interest. We're going to split it according, to their nominations. And essentially Fargo and Grand Forks covered the small users. We're calling them small users. It's basically anybody except for Fargo and Grand Forks. And so Fargo and Grand Forks advanced that. for interim agreement B. For interim agreement C, it changed a little bit. Fargo and Grand Forks are both covering only their percent interests, which Fargo has 67.82, Grand Forks has 13.39, and Garrison Diversion is covering the 18.79% that's attributable to the small users. And so Garrison is fronting the cost for that portion of the Series C. Series C contemplates a $50 million budget that was approved by, or state portion that was approved by the legislature. They approved a $50 million grant, so we add the local cost share. And then we also in this agreement said, we think there's some money that might get turned back that the State Water Commission would appropriate. So we're saying that if it does get appropriated, the Series C will address any of that funding as well. And so the total work plan that this covers is $89.7 million. Another change here and I will tell you, Exhibit B has what everybody is required to pay, or the maximum. Fargo's $15.21 million, Grand Forks is $3 million, Garrison $4.21 million for the local cost share. The last change that's been made is this one. It says that Garrison is going to apply for a loan to cover the local cost share, and the legislature authorized 30-year 2% loan, but we believe that there's going to be some better financing, some maybe even 40-year financing available through the Bank of North Dakota. So what the agreement says is, we're contemplating at least 30 years, 2%, but we're still working to try to get better terms. And so whatever those better terms are, we'll amend the payment schedule and add it to the end of the Series C agreement. And with that, I will say, John Shockley is here. He's the attorney that's represented Lake Agassiz in these negotiations. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask John or myself.
So John, here's where I ask you, John, should we sign this?
Well, it's up to the board if they want to approve it. Obviously, it's not my decision to sign it, but I reviewed it and it's okay for the board to go ahead and approve it.
Very good. Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, this Ken.
Okay, is there a second? Moved in second. Any questions about it? It's nice that Garrison's helping us out with that local cost. Sounds like a good deal. Roll call vote.
Altoff. Bigwood.
Aye.
Bonsack. Carlsrud.
Yes?
Erdman.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Mahoney.
Yes.
Riley. Schmaltz. Pritchard. Van.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Say, Ken, we now know that your mic works. Did you want to say anything to us before I go to the next section?
No, I apologize. I wasn't able to be at the opening ceremony that you spoke at, but I'm appreciative of all the work everybody has done, and I'm really excited very much that things are progressing. So just a big thanks for everybody for the work they've done.
And we hope when you're in this library, you write the history of this project for us, because I found out it goes back 80 years. So I thought, Ken, that'd be a good assignment for you to figure that out.
I'll work with you on that. How about that?
Tammy, you have something to tell us about that Minnesota lawsuit?
Actually, I don't have anything to tell you. With the Central North Dakota lawsuit, Missouri sued. Our briefing is all in. We spent probably 7 months briefing. That was in the end of June. And nobody knows when we will get a decision or whether we'll have a hearing. It's up to the judge. Sometimes in federal court, it takes a year before you can get a hearing, or even, I've got one that's probably about 16, 17 months, and we still haven't got a decision from a court, so, or even word whether we've got oral arguments. So it's just one of those things that I will probably be reporting the same thing at every meeting that still haven't heard, but I'll let you know when we have a date.
Thank you. Financial report. Mary, you're going to talk about the 2021 budget analysis statement, tab X.
So tab X is Lake Agassiz budget analysis. This is for 2021 through July 31st. So for Lake Agassiz, your income budget was a budget of $2.6 million. You have received $356,000 to date. Expense budget is $2.6 million, received $253,000. If you go down to the account activity, You'll see that it started the beginning of the year with 644,000. As I said, it received income of 356,000. So total funds available to date were a little over $1 million, and total expenses were 253,000 so far, and have an ending bank balance on July 31st of $747,000.
And we need no action on that.
This one we do. This is for auditors to look at.
Can I have a motion? Is there a second? Thanks, Mark. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Eltoff. Bigwood.
Aye.
Bonsack.
Yes.
Carlsrud.
Yes?
Herdman.
Yes.
Johnson. Mahoney.
Yes.
Riley. Schmaltz. Pritchard. And Vien.
Mary, then you got the bills paid you want to talk, or is that just for our records?
If that's for everybody's records, if there's any questions, I sure would answer them on tab Y.
Okay. And then tab Z is summary of dues received for your information. Unfinished business, Kip, we have some issue on pipe size.
Sure. So we talked about contract 2 at the intake. Contract 2 is the pipe that goes out underneath the Missouri River. So it's that structure that we just showed you, the wet well. Michaels is the contractor. One of the first requests that they made of us, they said, Garrison Diversion, your specs called for a 72-inch pipe to go out to the river. Makes sense, right? The whole project's 72-inch. They have a tunnel boring machine that fits a 70-inch pipe. If they need to go get a 72-inch tunnel boring machine, they have to get it from Germany. They have to get a head and different parts, and that's going to take, X amount of time. First question you'll probably ask is, well, heck, the whole project is 72-inch. Why in the heck would we go down to 70-inch? That just doesn't add up. Well, when we dig into the hydraulics of the wet well and the pipeline, there's really no impacts at all. I mean, when we look at, so our project is 165 CFS. When we compare, we're just gonna look at 180 CFS at a 72-inch pipe, we're gonna have 22.3 feet of water in the wet well. If we go to a 70-inch pipe, 180 CFS, we have 22.2 feet of water in the wet well. So we're talking, 2 inches difference with that change in pipe diameter. We need at least 10 feet in there. So we're double what we need. So as far as hydraulically goes, engineering aspects go, we're totally fine. We just don't want people to say, well, you have a 72-inch pipeline that goes across state. Why in the world would you ever go down to a 70-inch? So we're bringing it to you today. We feel like Michaels needs to definitely give us time savings, and they also need to give us cost savings. We know right now they're saying at least a 2-month savings on schedule, which is good because we have nationwide permit issues. Some of this work's going to be going on right up ahead of ice freeze up. So any speed up in schedule, I think, is a good thing. They definitely need to go back and sharpen their pencil, though, on cost savings. So letting you know that they've requested this hydraulically, we think we're fine. As long as they give us a good deal, hopefully LAWA would be in agreement with that type of.
So basically, I need from the board a motion to allow KIP to negotiate this down, because part of the question is they get a 2-month gain. So how much is that worth? I thought 100,000, it might be worth a little more to us than that. So engineers in the room probably understand that time value money, but the reality is what we'd like to do is, so we don't have to vote it down again, is to give KIP permission to negotiate it. Dave?
So my question would be, why was it engineered larger in the first place?
Great question. So so anytime you're doing any tunneling work, especially under a river, it's risky, it's high risk. you're probably only going to put one of these in 75 years. You definitely don't want to put something in too small. And so whenever you're talking about designing pipelines, you know, a 3-inch pipe will deliver a range of flows, and so there's no difference on this one too. We just chose our upfront number that we chose in our design. We chose to be really conservative, and we thought because of the risk, you don't want to go back in there, let's choose something higher than what's needed. Right or wrong, you could have chose something smaller, but then the likelihood of, you know, if it gets plugged up with snails, what's the zebra mussels, you know, those things start squeezing your capacity, and so you just want to do it right the first time.
Kip, you gotta get out fishing more. Can I have a motion? Is there a second? Good. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Altoff, Bigwood,
Aye.
Bonsack. Yes. Karlsruhe,
Yes.
Erdman,
Yes.
Johnson. Yes. Mahoney,
Nice.
Riley, Schmaltz, Pritchard, Vien.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Now, the sad thing is, when we did the groundbreaking, Dwayne did not invite us into Carrington to have a beer or something to celebrate. Kind of gave us his lunch and water to go. But as long as we're in Fargo and you got done early, you know, if you don't mind stopping by and having something before you leave, that helps me with the flood diversion, because that sales tax helps us out. So we can celebrate our Red River Valley water supply project going forward, and you're done early today. Any other business, Mary? Grub's buying, no problem. Motion to adjourn? So moved. Is there a second? All those in favor to adjourn, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Did you want to say something, Dwayne?
We had on the user update meeting on here.
I got you two out of there. Good. We got to stop just a minute. I got to have Steve and Mary talk about users.
Thank you, Mayor and Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief, given that you've already adjourned once. At the previous meeting, I just described how you would authorize us to go out to meet with all of the different users to kind of update them on the project and then talk about where we see things moving forward. At this time, we've been out to every user that was willing to meet with us, with the exception of the Jamestown Stutzman Development Corporation, or i.e. the city of Jamestown. That meeting was scheduled again for Monday, and they won't have a quorum, and so Mary and Sean are working hard to try to find a time to meet with them to have that final meeting. You also heard this afternoon about the hard work on the project participation agreement and water supply agreement. That's that next agreement that everybody will be asked to sign. That's really going to be the full commitment to the project. So as we were out meeting with everybody, we told them that either this fall or more likely next spring, we'd be out to address that agreement. And so that's really what we're working towards. And the only other thing that Mary asked me to present to you this afternoon then was that for those systems that are on the river, they already have an intake on the river. So it's very easy to access the project and straightforward to understand how they're going to fit in. They also are the ones that are most drought susceptible, so they end up being our most straightforward users. For the rest of them, there's some type of extension pipeline that's needed for them to participate in the project. And historically, we went and did a full estimate of everybody's nomination, a full projection of their peak day demands. We looked at pipe sizing for the extension pipelines based on both average day and peak day. And then we put some cost estimates together for that. And then, things kind of stalled out for us a bit since 2016. And so it's your staff's recommendation that we also dust off that process and reach out to each of the systems to revisit those extension agreements. So in the very near future, for all the board members that are here, your system will be receiving a phone call as well as a formal letter. And in that letter, we'll explain a bit about the project. We'll state what you nominated for during the development agreement. We'll talk about the different assumptions that were used for the extension pipelines historically. We'll give a quick update of the project so that if people want to share that with their board, they can. And then most importantly, we're going to request clarification on where they want to be in terms of a domestic nomination, where they want to be in terms of an industrial nomination, what they project their peak day capacity will be through 2075, what their desired point of connection is, so where they want the water, their desired route of connections. So for instance, if you're southeast water users in Levon, on the east side, do you want to try to get that water from Fargo coming down through Wahpeton, or would you prefer to get it from Lisbon and come across? Those type of questions we'll ask to each of the users. And then although we haven't really tackled treatment completely, we will also ask a question about desired water quality just to get a sense for which users are really considering this a replacement supply, where they'd like to have drinking water and have that factored in some fashion, versus those systems that are comfortable with getting the water that will be supplied through the pipeline. And so I was just asked to give you a sense for that. And then once we gather all of that data, we will complete another demand memo. We will complete another memo on the different pipe sizing and associated costs. And this time, we're going to get that down to capital costs and operating costs, so that when we face those questions from those extension pipeline users on what does this cost to get it right here, we will have those questions ready for everybody at that point in time. I'd be glad to answer any questions on the pipeline or the user effort that Dwayne and Mary are spearheading.
Steve, can you explain to the group that you got some good news? Somebody came to you and wants to hook up to us already and wants to do all those great things. You want to explain that to the board,
Sure.
please?
So I think at the last meeting, maybe I overlooked that, but at the last meeting I explained that we had been down to Aberdeen and knocked on their door a little bit because they're looking at things, and we haven't heard back from them. I don't know if that's good or bad, but we did put our best foot forward. The other meeting that we had recently was in Washburn, North Dakota. And Washburn is we hear about quite a bit because it's right next to the intake. And we did approach them back in 2016, and at the time they elected to not participate and build their own intake. As they've determined where that intake would have to go in the community and how much it's going to cost and how much grant money is available, I think they're starting to realize that putting an intake in the river is very costly. There's always the concern about moving sandbars and whether that intake continues to work, even though they spend a lot of money. And so they looked and they see us building right down the road. You literally can see it from Washburn, where all this work is being done in those pictures. And I think they realized that maybe they should take a second look at that. And so the whole group went out there and made a presentation to Washburn about how they might participate in the project. So kind of a quasi-user meeting. And I think they saw some pretty favorable information when we presented that. If you remember how we're allocating costs, because they'd only need to use the intake, they are a very beneficial part of it. And then 75% grant with the state and spreading costs over a very large user base, just a lot of good things going on for Washburn. So then they asked some pretty tough questions of us, how would we go about building this pipeline to get to you from the intake that you're building? How does the pump station work? Who's going to own that asset? Who's going to operate that asset? Those kind of questions. How big would it need to be? Those types of things. And so we're busy working on that. But as the mayor indicated, it looks like we could actually go back to the legislature next session with a user in hand, which would be, I think would play very well and be very exciting for the project.
So we get our first user before the whole project's done. That's pretty good, huh? So we're looking at two things with the team, is to look at these types of arrangements and who owns it, who manages it. Is it the Lawa users? Is it the garrison? And we'd like to be fair to everybody. So the idea is the Lawa organization would bring these people in. We think that might be better, that we're all the user group that is in this corporation, basically. The other thing we're looking at is if we can accelerate the speed of build if the drought gets considerably worse. And as we know in the central state, it's pretty bad. So if that happens a couple more years, we want to be prepared to talk to the legislative body. What if we have to move this up because of if water issues? We've already gone to tier 2 in our drought protection in the city of Fargo. which isn't too egregious, but you do notice it, that the people are aware of what's going on, and we still have water enough coming down our way. But it gets a little frightening, and I know you guys, some of you guys in the western part, it's pretty tough right now, so it's hard to see that happen, but we have that big flow, little flow, and now we're in the little flow part, so.
The only thing that maybe I'd add too is for anybody that would question why would we let Washburn come on at this late date after some of us have spent money, your development agreement was very specific with legislative direction that you'd have to have a latecomer fee. So they have to catch up with all past payments. They have to pay the latecomer fee. These costs that Grand Forks and Fargo have been carrying, they would ultimately have to pay their fair share, and then they'd have to pay for the project using the cost allocation model, just like all of you had to pay for that, as well as pay their share of the extension pipeline, and that was all very transparently presented to them.
So you can include what he said today, so just so it's not out of the meeting, just because we've already adjourned, but it's information anyway. But any other business now? Thank you very much, appreciate it.